Hello and welcome back to another InfoPod video from Combat Fusion Martial Arts. In this video we'll be looking at the technique Crushing Hammer. Now Crushing Hammer is an over-arm bear hug attack from the rear. We'll be looking at moving within a confined area which is dictated by our opponent and how we can manipulate that to our advantage. We will also be looking at moving off of the centre line to the side, which will allow us target acquisition to targets which are in our obscure zone and also body contouring. And we will also look at movements that will amplify borrowed force. Now before we proceed any further, I'd like to remind you all that if you haven't done so already, perhaps you'd like to subscribe to this channel. It does help us immensely. Also, don't forget to leave a like and please think about sharing it to anybody who you feel might find the information of use. So let's get into Crushing Hammer now, and we'll be looking at it from our usual perspective without a partner, then breaking it down and then moving on into the variations. So let's see Crushing Hammer. The base attack for this technique is a rear over-arm bear hug executed at or above the elbows. This type of bear hug attack is more common than the underarm version, as it provides the assailant greater control of their prey. The initial defense taught in our school involves what we refer to as the Houdini prefix. Harry Houdini, a famous 20th century escapologist, would use tension in his body when being placed into a straitjacket. This would cause the straitjacket to become loose when he relaxed his body, thereby aiding his escape. Like Houdini, we take command of our situation by the creation of a wall around our body through the use of selective tension. Our arms create a border of tension between our body, which remains relaxed, and our opponent's attack. This gives our opponent a reaction he is likely to expect and therefore feel comfortable with, because his plans appear to be working. Simultaneously, the border of tension gives us space for our body to maneuver within. From here, step out to the side into a horse stance as you simultaneously execute a back hammer fist to your opponent's groin. This is the Crushing Hammer. The step into the horse stance creates a situation which makes it harder for your opponent to manipulate your body, and also places your hammer fist's line of attack onto his centre line. The point of origin for the hammer fist depends upon how you instinctively react to the grab itself. In the ideal phase, the hammer fist will move from a point of origin directly in front of your opponent's groin, whilst the free hand checks his grasping hands. We will instinctively react by going to a point of pain, as explained in our videos on techniques Triggered Salute and Glancing Salute. Additionally, we will also go to the point of compression. This is why you may find your hands on top of your opponent's hands during the attack. If that is the case, just work from that point of reference, leaving your free hand in place as a pinning check. Now move your other foot in the same direction, dragging your leg through a 45-degree cat stance around and behind your opponent's leg into a reverse bow. As you settle into the reverse bow, reassert your dominance over your opponent by again hammering into his groin, but this time with a heel palm that crushes it by grasping the groin with your grip. From the reverse bow, pivot into a fighting horse stance as your arm contours up the front of your opponent's body, delivering an upward obscure elbow to his chin, dragging his testicles towards his mouth as you go. Continue this pivot on into a forward bow, delivering a rear hand inward horizontal heel palm to your opponent's floating rib or bladder, fingers pointing out. Time the impact with settling into the forward bow, thereby sending your opponent to the floor. Your lead hand continues on a path to your lead hip, acting as a clearing check whilst also clawing across his face. When performed efficiently, this claw alone can destroy your opponent's posture, taking him to the floor. We will now proceed on to the extension to crushing hammer. If you do not require this at your stage of training, you may wish to bypass the next section of this video. Warning! The next section should be practiced with extreme caution and only with a fully compliant partner who knows the correct method of falling. As your opponent begins to fall, quickly have both of your hands grasp the rear of the respective knees of your opponent, immediately lifting them, thereby forcing your opponent to impact the floor in a heavy fashion. There may also be a major impact to the rear of the cranium, so again, proceed with extreme caution during your practice sessions. Both of your opponent's legs should end up on the open side of your body. Shift your leading hand over to grasp the heel of your opponent's furthest foot and immediately rotate his ankle towards yourself as your rear hand's heel palm presses down onto the toes of that same foot. As this ankle lock is applied, circle your lead foot behind you into a neutral bow, forcing your opponent over onto his front. Release the ankle lock, allowing his legs to drop. Begin a front crossover maneuver, which is completed by the delivery of a front crossing over stomp to the rear of your opponent's closest knee. Ideally, we will crush the knee under the stomp, using it as a stepping stone to execute the next strike. However, when practicing, it is wise to step off your opponent's knee before proceeding on to the next strike. The pain from the stomp kick causes your opponent to react by raising his head and upper body. Take advantage of this and deliver a side kick to the rear of his head with your advancing foot. Now plant this foot close to your opponent's armpit and immediately drop into a close kneel stance, impacting his kidney with your rear knee. The impact to his kidney will cause a similar reaction of your opponent once again raising his head and upper body. Take advantage of this by rising out of the close kneel stance and stepping forward to deliver a shovel type kick again to the rear of his head. Plant your kicking leg forward as you again drop into another close kneel stance, this time with your rear knee impacting on the C2 vertebrae of your opponent's neck. Once again, proceed with extreme caution. From this second close kneel, hop forward, drawing your rear leg into a knee up position, dragging and scraping across the rear of your opponent's head to end by delivering a rear stomp kick to any available target. From here, front crossover and cover out.
And welcome back. So now we're going to look at those variations. Now to begin with, we're going to look at a side-by-side between crushing hammer and crushing wings. So you'll be able to see the component parts in action and how related these two techniques are. We'll then proceed on to look at a couple more different variations for you to play with in your training. So let's get into it. The obvious relationship we should be looking at is the one between crushing hammer and crushing wings. They are family-related techniques and are also the answer to the difference between an overarm bear hug and an underarm bear hug. Here we see both techniques working in tandem and on their respective weak sides. As you can see, their basic components are almost identical and therefore will be interchangeable. The next variation deals with our opponent converting his overarm bear hug attack into a side headlock during our defense. The what if used here is to flow into the elbow technique, the grasp of death. Naturally, nothing in our art is set in stone. We have options, and here we can utilize the formulation equation. As an example, we have tagged on the arm break from the technique extension to entangled wing. Another aspect that may cause us to dive into the equation formulation is an environmental change. In this case, we are unable to step out onto the strong side and execute crushing hammer in its normal format. Now, the answer I would like to see from my students is their ability to execute this technique off of its weak side. However, when under pressure, we may find ourselves accessing different answers, such as here, where we've utilised squeezing the peach. This example allows us to use the same environment that initially caused the problem as part of the answer. Well, thank you very much for joining us on another video from Combat Fusion Martial Arts. I hope you find these videos of use to you in your training. Now, if you've got any comments, please remember to put them down in the comments section. And if you've got any requests, put them down as well and we'll try to help you out. Now, if you haven't done so already, please think of subscribing to our channel and don't forget to give us a like and share the video out. So, this is Andy Seetherton wishing you good night and looking forward to seeing you on the next video.